Hello everyone, we are back with another video, which means I will be committing to this YouTube channel after all. So, my name is Justice and Wealth, and I will be bringing you another video to help all of those who are involved in plays, such as AMC or GameStop, in helping them dictate their financial future after the mother of all short squeezes. So, today I'm going to cover something called what I would like to call financial abstinence. You see, the way people will see you today as opposed to the next couple months or so or sometime after the MOASS hits is going to be very, very different. You're going to have a lot of people appear in your life that you have never met before. You're also going to get reacquainted with a lot of people that you thought you cut out in your life. It is very important with this MOASS to find out who is really your friend and who's really a liability. There's going to be a lot of forms of manipulation from a lot of external sources that's going to want to use you and your financial capital for selfish reasons. So, here we're going to cover a bunch of ideas, concepts, and a lot of other things to be on the lookout for. So, before we get into that, nothing what I say here is to be considered legal or financial advice, as these are just my opinions and my opinions only. There will be probably some things that I will forget in this presentation, and if so, go ahead and leave a comment down below. And while you're at it, please leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe as well. So, the subject matter here is quite long, as I've been trying to record this over and over again. So, you will likely see multiple parts to this subject. Now that we got that out of the way, so what do I mean exactly by financial abstinence? What I mean is when you decide not to spend money even when you are fully capable of. So, for example, when you choose to not donate to a charity, or when you choose not to spend money on your wife. Those would be examples. Which should be self-explanatory, but there you have it. So, why would this be important? So, when you have a lot of financial wealth and power, the way people will think, as I said before, will be a lot different. People will come to you for financial wealth or wisdom. They'll seek you out a lot more than how often they are seeking you out today. So, it's important because this can potentially harm your relationships if you are not tactful. This could devastate how your image is in the eyes of your loved ones. They'll likely be more inclined to see you as a money sink as opposed to a human being. This can also cause harm to your community if you are reckless in your spending. Right? Like, think about it. If AMC jumps to $500,000 a share and you have like 1,000 shares, that's going to be so much wealth that you'll be able to move countries. So, if you are reckless with that type of money, then you could potentially cause a lot of disasters for local communities, even if it's not your own. Of course, you got a lot of issues with self-harm. You know, it could be emotionally and financially stressful for you. It could be physically stressful, or it could also cause a lot of legal issues and moral dilemmas in your life, right? I mean, you're going to have so much wealth as a result of the MOASS that you're going to have to make a lot of very important and careful decisions. You do not want to end up like the hedge fund managers trying to manipulate the markets. You do not want to get to their level of greed or to their level of ego. But this will also increase your risk of alienation. So if you decide to say no to someone who's very close to you and they come seeking you for financial help, then they are going to be more inclined to want to cut ties with you because they feel a sense of entitlement. They feel that a sense of loyalty was betrayed because you denied them. It may be hard for you to maintain some of these relationships, rather. However, this will also help you find out who is truly on your side. You're going to find out through this that you will find out who is exactly your friend and who is just using you. This financial wealth will bring out your truest self. And it'll also bring out the truth in other people when you are surrounded by them. So I'm really cranking out the artistic skills that I have to dust off, so I hope you appreciate my little caricatures. So, how exactly are you manipulated? Think about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs as well as survival instincts. So I just put a couple examples from those into this little circle, which I hope will make you feel a lot more relevant to what I'm talking about. So the first need, of course, are your physical needs, which are pretty much granted when it comes to from your financial wealth. The other needs come from your safety and assurance, and because of how you may want to hold on to all this wealth and financial freedom, it's going to make you feel a lot more fear if there are any sort of threats to that. It's like someone coming with like a ball and chain with the intent to strap it to your legs and your arms. You're going to feel a lot of sense of fear from that. Much in the same way that you'll feel a lot of sense of fear when something threatens your financial freedom. Community is going to be a very, very huge one. That's what most of this is going to be resulting around. So, think about how humanity survived for millennia. And think about how getting kicked from a tribe was the equivalent of certain death. We still have this survival instinct in all of us, which is manipulated to this day to get people to think in terms of religious affiliations, political parties, sports affiliations as well. You know, the sense of community is a double-edged sword. It can definitely make you feel at home and welcome, and it can most certainly make you feel like you are a part of something greater. At the same time, it also limits your ability to, or it limits your feeling of freedom when you want to stray away from some of the principles that those communities hold. There's also a sense of justice that we all feel. And I'll get into the community thing later in a bit because we got a lot to cover. But with a sense of justice, we all want to see the good guy win. We want to see the bad guy be punished and jailed. And we want to see the victims get compensated and recover, of course. So, because of the amount of wealth that we will have as a result of these financial plays, it's going to be a lot more enticing, and we are going to be a lot more capable to have a sense of vigilante justice and being able to carry out a sort of vigilantism onto communities. This is very dangerous for a wide variety of reasons. Some I think you may know, others I may need to cover here. But that's a way that you can also be manipulated by people, especially from information, right? There's a lot of misinformation online. There's a lot of lies and deceit that people spread online. And if you fall into those sort of traps, you may be tricked into funding certain organizations that do not have the best interest that is advertised. Which deceit falls in line of an assumption of truth, right? Like, we all have this assumption of what's correct and factual. And this sort of ties in together with community and can be tied in together with justice at times. Kind of like how I explained earlier. So we also have this assumption of truth, which kind of ties with community and justice, where we have this assumption of truth where we believe something to be factual and correct. And when something challenges that assumption, we often fall into traps of cognitive dissonance. Now, people can deceive us by feeding us into our own assumptions of truth. They may agree with us even if they do not, or say they agree with us when they do not. So they can use us to pretty much trick us to be on their side and to trick us into giving our wealth away for whatever purpose they may have. Now, the other thing, which may be controversial, is a need for a shepherd. You know, we have all this desire for freedom, and a lot of that desire also comes from freedom from responsibility. And a lot of you may not agree with this, but if you've worked a 9-to-5 job, then, and I hate to say it, but you've had a need for a shepherd. You know, like, there's always someone to answer to. There's always someone to escalate issues to when you're not capable of. And it's a way to delegate responsibility away from us, which can be a big trap, because if we abdicate our responsibility onto someone else when we misuse our wealth, then that can cause a whole line of issues. Kind of like how you have the CDC and the federal government bouncing responsibility back and forth on who calls us to lock down, which they are both now trying to backtrack. So, what are forms of manipulation that we may fall into? And this is not an exclusive list. There may be things that I forgot, as I mentioned before. But here are some of the things that came to mind when I started working on this video. The first form of manipulation I'll cover is guilt. You know, your family especially will try to guilt you, for example, into wanting to give your wealth away. There will be charities that will try to guilt you into donating for whatever cause, and they'll tug at your emotions to, do what they want you to do. There is fear and threats. It's kind of self-explanatory. Like, you got the physical threat of violence, but you also got threats of, like, disownment, for example. And there are a lot more examples on how any of these can be made. Greed. Your personal greed can come to bite you in the ass and may cause you to spend money on luxury goods that you do not have a purpose for. There are a lot of wealthy people in the world that own a lot of things which barely get used. So, like, when you're wealthy, right, you want to make the most of all the things that you own. This also can feed into your ego, pride, and envy, right? Like, that's why designer brands are a thing. That's why Gucci is a thing. This can lead to a lot of ways where you can buy things that you do not need or things that you do not even want in the end, right? Like, you got these luxury designer brands like Gucci and all and a whole bunch of other things. I can't think off the top of my head. But these types of products can feed into your ego and making you think you have a higher sense of self-worth, which, can lead you into a lot more trouble if you're not careful. Lust. You know how often a lot of rich people like have an inclination to want to buy hookers? I mean, like, if money is as free as air and you could just more or less breathe to find someone that can be your partner, then, of course a lot of people are going to want to indulge in that sort of pleasure. The problem is when that sort of feeling is manipulated to the point where you're spending money on things that you shouldn't for someone else that only cares about you for your wealth. This can also lead to a lot of moral and legal consequences as well. And I'm not talking just about legal consequences of whether prostitution is legal or not, but in terms of espionage. Eric Swalwell, that motherfucker got caught banging a Chinese spy, so yeah, he's still free, so what the fuck do I know? But yeah, women, gentlemen, especially for you, women can definitely exploit your emotion of lust to get what they want. And it can lead you into a lot of trouble if you're not careful. This can be said the same for flattery as well. But, like other people, companies, and, friends and family can try to flatter you as well. Give you false praise, where they praise you for things that they do not genuinely feel strongly about you for. And so they use that to persuade you into spending money for whatever purpose they have, just because, hey, I'm on your side, right? There's also the issue of pressure, and this is mostly done by companies, kind of like car sales tactics. They want you to buy now. They want you to donate now. They do not want to give you that moment of time for you to sit and think and deliberate on whether or not you should use this money for them. So in the next recording, in the next upload, I will cover how to identify and avoid traps from relationships, institutions, and self-sabotage. And then after that, I'll also cover solutions and other notes other bonus notes for you to help you better be prepared when you accept all this wealth.